Hey everybody, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness. I typically don't do videos off the cuff like this. I've only spent about an hour researching this subject, but there was enough evidence to at least warrant a dialogue. I'm interested in what you're all thinking on this. So back on September 19, 2017, I published this video on John Casey's research. He's a scientist that studies the solar cycles. Specifically, he has identified a 206-year solar cycle, and at the very bottom or minimum of these cycles, there has been a catastrophic earthquake on the new Madrid fault line. So you can see his graphs here. What his warning to everyone is that we are in the next minimum period, and that he's expecting a new Madrid earthquake anytime from 2015 to 2030. He feels that it's very imminent. He thinks it's actually going to be, within the next couple of years. Now, I saw this on my Facebook feed. This is from Mr. MBB. He does some Earthwatch things similar to BP Earthwatch. And anecdotally, I can't confirm that these are indeed photos of the Mississippi River or if they are at this point in time, but he's had these subscribers submit these photographs stating that the Mississippi River is very, very low in some spots. So again, there was one photo, and here's the second photo, obviously very dry. In addition to this, he has a lot of emails from his subscribers that live around the region saying, oh yeah, the areas are indeed really, really low. And throughout this video, it's an interesting watch. I'll put a link in the YouTube description box. He's actually wondering if this is due to a crack in the ground based on this new Madrid fault activity. So again, I'll put the link in the YouTube description box. Have a watch for yourself, but I want to add some research that I did on top of his. So he wasn't seeing a whole lot of news agencies covering this. Again, you can see here, news not saying anything about it. There are a couple articles, not a lot, stating, the river is definitely low. They're acknowledging that. If you go on NOAA's website, you can actually see the levels of the Mississippi River. They are all below the water threshold. You can see them all down here, the brown boxes, and you can see they've dropped off pretty considerably, a couple feet. Again, the low stage at this point was 6 feet, and you're down to about 1.7 feet. And you can see this at each one of these buoys, they are actually dropping off. Now, he said that there is not drought conditions around the Mississippi. So it's peculiar that you have water level drops all throughout here without it actually being a drought. I did find this article here that drought conditions are looming for this area. You can see this one paragraph here. Most places east of the Mississippi River have yet to develop drought conditions, but there isn't a lot of rain precipitation. So it's not that there's absolutely no signs of drought. It's sort of dry, but again, I'm not sure if these are unusual for the amount of rainfall that this region has had. What is interesting about this, and again, I did a little bit more information for you all, is this USGS report on earthquakes and how it affects water systems. So you can see these hydrogeologic responses to earthquakes have been known for decades and have occurred both close to and thousands of miles from earthquake epicenters. So it says that you can have water wells becoming turbid, dry, or begin flowing. There's been changes with the directional flow of rivers, or new rivers or new lakes forming, or them disappearing. And again, they can happen close to or thousands of miles away from epicenters. And we all know that we've had those major earthquakes in Mexico. I want to show you some graphs on that as well, because those earthquakes in Mexico basically have an effect on the entire continental U.S. So here's another interesting part about this: precursory responses. There is this one geologist here that says the documentation of a few of these reports, precursory hydrogeologic changes, is now approaching levels that require them to be given scientific credibility. Water levels and chemical data seem to be the best documented precursory signals to date and are monitored in several countries or counties as potential indicators of an impending earthquake. So that's interesting here. This is from the USGS. Again, not a conspiratory website. And it talks about changes in water patterns or behaviors that may be precursory to actual earthquakes. And even though drought conditions haven't officially begun around the Mississippi area, we do have water levels significantly below the threshold. Now, I checked out Dutch Sense's channel. He does a lot of earthquake activity, and he had this video published on 9/19. That was actually the same exact date that I published this video on earthquakes. We both were talking about the 4.0 that happened around Illinois. And again, he calls it a very rare 4.0 earthquake. And conveniently, it was near a fracking operation. You can see he has this nice graph here that shows that there is a lot of pressure happening on the Pacific Northwest, and that is a daisy chain effect, which basically pushes on this North American craton. And so here is the new Madrid. And you can see in this other video here, he's talking about that the Midwest and the West Coast is actually having a lot of pressure. There's a lot of earthquake activity going on here. And he shows you the areas of where this pressure is basically relocated as it pushes from the west to the east. And you can see it graphically here as well. You can see the craton here and the new Madrid fault line here. So I don't know, guys. This solar minimum period is very interesting. The fact that it's documented that a new Madrid earthquake has happened at the bottom of every single one of these 206-year solar minimum cycles. It's interesting that although there's some drought conditions around the Mississippi, it hasn't been officially a drought yet, but we have significant water level loss all throughout the Mississippi. The USGS confirms that earthquakes definitely do have an effect on the water systems, and they may be precursory to earthquakes. In fact, this one scientist believes that we need to give it more scientific credibility. And from this Mr. MBB and his subscribers and his website, anecdotally, we have photographic evidence and emails saying that the Mississippi is sort of mysteriously drying up, even though it's not really dry. It's not really a drought condition. So what do you make about all this? I don't know. I thought it was interesting enough, again, to warrant a dialogue. Appreciate your comments in the YouTube comment box, and I'll talk to you guys later. This is Mike with On Point Preparedness. See ya.